but we're both at home. Just wanted to sort of make an acknowledgement that well done to all the students that are at university and trying to study at the moment. I know it is a very unusual and interesting time that we find ourselves in and the environment that we're in at the moment, but hopefully everyone is staying safe and well. And yeah, I can see some of our KPMG staff are online that are in the office in Christchurch, which is very nice for them. But yeah, myself and Linnea are working from home today. So yeah, a little bit about ourselves, but thank you so much for dialing in. I can see we've got quite a few people on, so really, really nice to see that we've got some interest about KPMG in Christchurch. So yeah, without further ado, I will get started on the presentation. So first things first, probably the biggest question that everyone wants to know, the students, is our applications do open very, very soon. So they open on Monday, the 7th of March, and without trying to promote anyone else, that is the same for all the big four companies. So PwC, Deloitte, EY, and KPMG, us graduate recruiters always come together, I think for the last sort of 2 or 3 years, and decide on a date where we all open at the same time. So just easy for all the students, but nice as well, so that everybody knows that we do actually get along with each other and we don't actually hate each other at the big four firms. So all opening on the 7th of March, really, really excited myself, Linnea, really looking forward to getting all of your applications. So we will be looking for interns that will start with us in November this year, and then our graduate roles we're recruiting for from Monday will be roles starting next year in the end of February 2023. So about this time next year. We did actually have our graduates start this week on Monday. We had our biggest cohort we've ever hired. So we had 160 graduates start on Monday, which was pretty full on. Definitely varied with people being in the office, people being at home. We had a bit of a virtual induction. So we have gotten used to sort of scenarios like this, where we're on Zoom and talking to people. But yeah, really excited to have our grads start this week. And then also just for numbers wise, our interns, the summer just gone, we had about 60 interns, which might go up a little bit this year, but yeah, normally around sort of 60 to 70 interns. And then yeah, our most recent cohort of graduates was 160. So a lot of roles available for all of you students to apply for. So please do keep an eye out and get in as early as you can with your applications. And then the different sort of teams that we look for at KPMG, we do have quite a variety of teams. One of our biggest ones, and the one that is at the top there, is our audit team. So our audit team is the biggest team that we recruit for grads and interns, and is also the biggest team that we recruit for in our Christchurch office. So I think we had about 7 grads start on Monday in Christchurch. And then some of our other teams that we recruit for is our tax team, our innovation and growth team. So they sit within tax, but they look at research and development credits and getting sort of grants to companies and really help some pretty interesting companies. And they do come from a wide, our sort of staff in the innovation and growth team do come from a wide range of degrees. So engineering, health science, lots of sort of niche degrees that you wouldn't necessarily think would be at KPMG. Then we have our private enterprise team. So they deal with small to medium sized businesses. So looking at sort of their finances and helping them throughout their sort of accounting and processes. So a really cool team to join there. Then we have our consulting team. This is a super broad team. So they deal, we have management consulting, risk consulting, tech consulting, financial risk, lots of different sort of cybersecurity, lots of different sort of parts within the consulting team. And they quite often can take arts degrees, they can take sort of not just traditional accounting degrees. So a really cool team to join if you're sort of unsure of, I guess, the sort of complete avenue you want to go down. You can join something like management consulting or risk consulting, just to help our clients solve their problems, and then sort of see where you might want to specialize after that. Then you've got deal advisory, that is primarily looking at our sort of finance students. They deal with lots of high risk transactions, companies buying other companies, companies going into insolvency, different things like that. They like to describe themselves as the Suits of KPMG, if you've ever watched that Netflix program. So yeah, deal advisory is a lot of fun. Then we have our Lighthouse team. That is our sort of technology, big sort of data and analysis team. So they deal with lots of big sets of data. They quite often make apps for our companies and different things like that. And they, a lot of the time, work very closely with our consulting teams. So our consulting teams might have a client come to us and say, hey, we've got a problem. Our consulting teams go into the clients and sort of have a look around the companies and figure out that, hey, it might actually work if we implement this sort of program or this sort of app. And that's when they might go to our Lighthouse team and say, hey, can you build this for us to implement for our clients? So yeah, and Lighthouse is one of our sort of biggest growing teams at the moment, obviously with technology just getting more and more popular within business. So a really cool team to join there as well. And then one of our newest teams we have is our impact team, which is looking at sort of helping businesses with all of their corporate sustainability and making sure they're environmentally friendly and all things like that. Still sort of a team that I'm almost actually learning myself what it is about, but definitely have a look on our website. It's a really cool team and one that I think a lot of students might be interested in because it's sort of making sure that companies are doing the right thing for the environment within business. So those are our teams. Now looking at where we recruit. So obviously you are students for UC, but you're not necessarily going to stay in Christchurch. So we do have 7 offices across New Zealand. As you can see there, our biggest office is Auckland, followed by Wellington. But then we do have a reasonably big offices in both Hamilton and Tauranga. And then in our South Island, we have obviously a Christchurch office, but then we also have 2 smaller offices in our Ashburton and Timaru offices. So really across the country, and yeah, looking for graduates and interns across all of those offices. I think this year Ashburton did take 1 grad. So Timaru and Ashburton do tend to be our smaller offices and don't always take graduates, but you can always go to the Christchurch office if not. So yeah, quite a large company. And another big thing that I know lots of students are always interested in, and is a bit of a big draw card for people coming to KPMG, is obviously we are part of a really large global network, and we are, you know, within lots of other KPMG firms. So KPMG is in over 150 countries. So yeah, we definitely have a lot of strong relationships with the other KPMG offices across the world. And as it says there, in non-COVID times, we do usually send our staff and quite highly likely to be our graduates on sort of short-term secondments and long-term secondments to other KPMG firms. We quite often have a bit of an arrangement with some of the other locations around the world where when it's our busy period, they will send staff to us, and when it's their busy period, we'll send staff to them. So just to think of some places that we do send people, can quite often be places in Europe. So we have a good relationship with Amsterdam. Where else do we go? We also have quite a few good relations in the US. So can go to sort of different various locations across there. And then also some of our Asian countries as well. So yeah, the world really is your oyster with KPMG. We are looking at the moment to hopefully try and get those started again. So hopefully in this sort of coming year, and by the time any of our your graduates or interns sort of start towards the end of this year, hopefully that will be back up and running. Fingers crossed COVID leaves us, fingers crossed. So, and probably the second biggest question after we get asked when do applications open is what are we looking for? And I think the biggest thing that I would want to say here is there isn't one sort of person or one set personality that we look for in KPMG. We do really, really like to try find a diverse group of people, and we like to make sure that our whānau is very much reflecting what is in New Zealand. So, but some of the qualities that we do look for in people would be these 7 qualities here. So with the leadership point there, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have led, I don't know, like a team, or, you know, had some work experience where you've been the manager or anything like that. Just being able to show that you have potential to be a leader. It may be being able to show that you've been part of say a soccer team or something like that, and being able to sort of help people and potentially lead them in the right direction. And working very closely with that is teamwork. So being able to work closely with others and collaborate on things. A big thing that we do at KPMG is teamwork and working together. I've already sort of mentioned Lighthouse and consulting working together, and our audit teams work very, very closely together. I know like our Auckland staff work lots with our Hamilton audit team and different things like that. Myself and Linnea are constantly working with all the teams across the business to help them get the right sort of candidates coming through. So you're never sort of working alone, and teamwork is a really big thing. So really good to be able to showcase that you are good at working with others. Then problem solving. That doesn't necessarily mean that you have to come up with a solution, but just being able to come in and collaborate with others, and sort of coming in with a different angle and maybe having a different point of view to others to help eventually come to the problem. And then, yeah, diversity is a massive one, not just with our people, but also with diversity of thought. So having different opinions and being able to voice those as well. And then, yeah, just really emphasizing that we do look for a wide range of people from backgrounds, ages, you know, coming from other locations and all those sorts of things. So making sure that everyone at KPMG is from diverse cultures and backgrounds is really important to the firm. Adaptability, I've been saying this so much, but all of you students have already got this covered. Being online like this and having to change your studies to virtual, you've already sort of got adaptability covered, but just being able to adapt to your surroundings, and, you know, if clients change their needs or change their wants, being able to sort of change to that, which is really important. Communication skills is a really, really important one at KPMG. Not only being able to communicate with your clients and with your fellow colleagues, but also being able to communicate if you don't know what you're doing. As a graduate starting out, we don't expect you to know everything. So just being able to put your hand up and say, hey, I've got a question, can I have some help on this? So really just having the confidence to speak up when you need to, and then also being able to communicate with your colleagues and clients. And then enthusiasm. This is a really good one. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to be the loudest person in the room, but just making sure that you are enthusiastic and you're passionate about working at KPMG, and you're passionate about the division that you're working for. So just making sure that you know, you do want to be at KPMG. We want people to want to come to work and to enjoy themselves at work. So just really being able to show where your passions lie, and hopefully that's with KPMG. Please do feel free to put in any questions in the chat, and we can always answer them at the end as well. Cool. So steps to join our whānau, and this is a really important one as well, and lots of questions that myself and Linnea always get asked on this one. So the biggest thing that we do always recommend people, one is applying early, so please do get your applications in next week. But 2 is to research KPMG. So kind of goes back to my point about enthusiasm, and we want you to be passionate about working at KPMG, is just really looking at our careers website and looking at the information that you know about KPMG, or even potentially speaking to, coming to events like this and learning about KPMG and speaking to people that you know that might work at KPMG, and really finding out what you can about KPMG before you apply, and making sure that it does work for what you're looking for. We don't want you to, come to us just because you feel like you should and it's going to look good on your CV. We want you to actually want to come to work each day. So yeah, doing your research is a very good point. Then you would apply online. So again, as I've said multiple times now, applications opened on Monday the 7th. So making sure that you keep an eye out on our LinkedIn, our social media, Facebook and Instagram for when all of our roles go live on Monday morning, and then popping your application through. And a couple of points with that is I would say make sure that you, are sitting somewhere quiet and you focus on your application, because that is a lot of the time our sort of first look at you and first sort of impression of you. So making sure that you take the time to really answer every question. I think we only have sort of one free text answer where you have to actually sort of write something, but just making sure that all your answers are correct, and then you've put a bit of effort into that free text question. And then from that section, we do then get you to complete some psychometric testing and some video questions. So our psychometric testing is made up of verbal, numerical, abstract, and situational judgment questions. So verbal and numerical, obviously sort of testing your verbal skills and your numerical skills. Abstract is looking at sort of patterns and what comes next in different scenarios. And then your situational judgment question are sort of KPMG specific and sort of corporate environment specific questions. A lot of them they are sort of common sense, and it's just thinking about how you would look at that scenario and how you would respond. And then after that point, we would then ask you, if you're successful after that point, we would then invite you to come meet our teams. So that would either be coming to an assessment day or to an interview. And throughout the next sort of couple of months, it's highly likely that these processes are going to be virtual. Potentially in Christchurch, we might be able to hopefully get you into the offices, but like places like Auckland, highly likely that these will be virtual, just because we do have much more staff in our Auckland office. But our interviews are normally sort of half an hour to 45 minutes conversations with 2 members of the team that you're joining. And again, just making sure that you've done your research on KPMG and you know a little bit about the division that you're applying for, and then also potentially being prepared for a couple of competency-based questions. But we do tend to get a lot of feedback that our interviews at KPMG are quite conversational, and a lot of the time it is just the team sitting down and trying to get to know you and sort of what makes you tick. And then the assessment day, that whether it's online or in person, is coming along. We ask you to do look at a case study and do some analysis on a case study the night before. And then whether you're arriving virtually or coming to the office, having that prepared. And then we split you into groups that we sort of randomly select the day before. And you'll work on the case study together for normally about an hour and a half. And whether you're virtual or in person, you'll have a couple of KPMG members sort of observing you throughout that time and just seeing how you interact with others. And then you'll do a presentation as a group to a couple of KPMG staff. And then after that, you'd normally have sort of a 20-minute to 30-minute interview. So it does sound very intense. It's not as intimidating as it sounds. It is very sort of casual, a virtual environment. It is like this. So we would sort of start you off like this and then pop you into groups, and you would just be, collaborating and talking with your other team members and sort of coming up with a solution. So you can always kind of look at it as a case study competition that you might do at university. And then it's a 10-minute presentation, so not too long. And you've obviously got sort of 5 or 6 people within your group. So maybe only talking for like 2 minutes each. So yeah, not as daunting as it sounds. And a lot of the time we do get feedback that actually that wasn't as scary, and it was kind of fun. So yeah. And then from that process, you would either be given a call from us or some of the KPMG staff that you've met to say, yeah, you've got the offer and we would love for you to join KPMG. We do try to come back to people reasonably quickly after that. So you know, if you've had an interview, it's normally sort of a couple of days, or maximum would be maybe a week that we come back to you. And an assessment day, we do try to come back to you sort of 1 or 2 days afterwards. And I think the other thing that's really important to mention here is just if you aren't successful that first time round, please don't be put off. We often get people that, you know, sort of potentially maybe didn't get through last year and they're now going to apply this year, and just making sure that you can sort of show that you've taken on the feedback that we gave you. And if you do get to the assessment day or an interview, you will get specific feedback from us, so individual feedback on your performance. And we do give people the option, you know, if that feedback isn't enough, we can you can schedule a feedback call with myself or Linnea. So yeah, lots of steps. I'm very conscious I've given you a lot of information all at once. But yeah, those are the sort of 6 steps that you'd do to get to joining KPMG. Oh, good. Okay. I feel like I've just spoken for a long time. So we are going to pass over to some of our team members. What I will do is sort of go through each person one by one. We have sort of given them a couple of questions to think about before coming along. So hopefully they've done that. Otherwise, I'm sure they'll be good to answer off the cuff. But what I might start in order from the screen. So Naomi, are you online with us?
Hi, morning everyone. How's it going?
Good. Hey Naomi, how are you?
Thank you. Yeah, so I am part of the private enterprise team with KPMG, and I'm actually based down in the small population that is the Timaru office. But that definitely doesn't limit my position or anything that I can actually achieve within KPMG, because KPMG is still recognised as a national entity, so I still have engagement with offices in the North Island, and I regularly travel to Ashburton office as well, and occasionally Christchurch office too. So in my day-to-day role in the private enterprise space, so we're sort of quite heavily advisory focused. So I do a lot of budgeting and forecasting work. I do quite a bit of financial analysis. We do a large proportion of what all of that leads to is report writing. So sorry, and I forgot to mention that I'm based in the agricultural space as well. So originally coming from Lincoln University. So our report writing sort of stems around farm sale and purchases. We do a lot of bank funding requests for dairy farmers, sheep and beef. We do a lot of benchmarking work as well in the industry, and a lot of like business strategy reviews. A lot of technical software support around zero-figured farm focus, and recently we've been doing quite a bit of family succession planning, which is a hot topic in the agri industry. Yeah, and sort of anything else. Our role is quite adaptive to sort of suit the client needs. What do I find most enjoyable about my job? Well, I have a frequent interaction with farming clients, whether that's through emails, phone calls, or verbal meetings. And then, and being in the agri sector, we obviously deal with quite a lot of farming families. So for me, this makes my client interactions a lot more personable, which is really cool. That's something that's really important to me. We always are hammering away at our problem solving skills. Yeah, like I said, we are very adaptive to whatever the client needs. So yeah, that takes a lot of problem solving. And I guess the reward in my role comes from taking a challenging topic and transforming it into an understandable way that we can present that to the client. And in terms of using my degree for my role, so I have never forgotten my accounting basics, my debits, my credits, my assets, my liabilities, and equity. They are the foundation of everything that I do, and I'm assuming they always will be. And a hot tip, you might not remember everything word for word from your university degrees, but they will definitely be a wee bit of an alarm bell in the background for things that you sort of recognise as you progress through your career. And yeah, that's sort of how it assists you with that. And then obviously you'll develop further as you grow in your career. And then I guess a top tip for anyone looking to apply with KPMG, as Emma mentioned, KPMG has a lot of room for multiple different personality types, like different traits that people hold. And I guess when you're applying, it's really important to sort of get that message across. So yeah, that's private enterprise.
Amazing. Thanks, Naomi. I think I even learned a few things just then. And good to know that you're still using the debit and credits. That's so funny.
For sure.
Amazing. Cool. Well, as I said, feel free to drop any questions in the chat that you have for myself or any of the KPMG staff throughout the session, but we will have a Q&A at the end. So I'm going to pass over to Ashley. I can see your smiling face on the screen.
Yeah, hi guys, Naomi, that was a really good presentation. I don't know how I'm going to follow that. But yes, I'm from the risk consulting team down here in Christchurch. And essentially what we do down here, we primarily focus on risk, as you know, but I also work with a lot of the team around New Zealand, primarily in Wellington. A lot of my engagements with the Wellington team. So even though we've got a small team down here, I think where there's only 10 of us, you will still be able to work with lots of people around the country too. So that's always exciting, working on different engagements with clients. We work with a lot of big clients, particularly the ministries, which is really cool. And primarily as a graduate, what you'll be doing, you'll be liaising with a lot of clients and colleagues, completing a lot of client field work and writing lots of client reports, which is always fun. What I find most rewarding about my job at the moment is being able to give back to our clients. A lot of the time, they don't have the right skills or abilities within their internal workforce to complete the work that they're doing. Recently, we just helped one of the ministries complete a full restructure. I also recently just helped on a client health and safety and wellbeing compliance review for a local iwi. And it's all about just ensuring that clients are treating their staff well. And that's something that I really do personally benefit from. Outside of our work, I also, KPMG promote quite a lot of their volunteer leave. So everyone within KPMG gets 1 day volunteer leave a year. And last year I was lucky enough to help the consulting team organise their volunteer days. So we got to pop down to the Christchurch City Mission and do a lunchtime barbecue for them. So the wider community, we were able to help them out. A lot of homeless people came down. We got to get to know them. It was a pretty rewarding experience, and something that I will always cherish being at KPMG. So yeah, the volunteer stuff that you get to do here is amazing. And as a grad, you can really get into it. And sometimes you get more than 1 day if there's some extra leave in there. So yeah, it's always really good. I also give blood as well in my spare time, and that can go to your volunteer leave too. How I use my degree at KPMG. So as Emma mentioned before, at working consulting, you don't really have to specialise in accounting or finance or anything like that. I did a BCom majoring in HR and operations and supply chain management. So my operations and supply chain management major has really helped me at KPMG because there's quite a few supply chain reviews that I've worked on, and because I studied it, I almost have become like a subject matter expert, in that field of work. So that's always really cool for people to be able to come to you, even though you might seem like a small grad, you actually do know quite a lot of stuff. And also my HR background has always been really good in terms of just like being really good to just like communicate with different people and everything like that. And yeah, I don't know, you can just really specialize in anything in consulting, and they have a tendency to like you anyway. And then a top tip from someone like you, if you're wanting to apply at KPMG, is just making sure that you're truly passionate about the role that you're wanting to apply for. I know as a grad, a lot of the time, you might just want to apply for the first role that pops up. And I know that I was doing that, and it's kind of just important to make sure that you're really being cautious and applying for the roles that you're truly passionate about, because this is it is a long-term decision that you're making to, start in a grad role and everything like that. So just make sure that you're applying for a role that you're passionate about. And as Emma said earlier, doing your research on the company as well, knowing the company values, memorizing role description if you get to the interview stage. Knowing what the company does is really important too. Sometimes people can go to interviews and they have no clue even what the company is about. So just being, I guess, aware of what the company is about and just studying your hardest. I know those pre-employment tests can be pretty gnarly too. So even just do a couple practice runs of those as well if you get past the applying stage and through to the interview and pre-employment tests. So yeah.
Amazing. Thanks, Ashley. Gosh, so much information. I feel like these UC people are getting the cream of the crop people and giving you lots of good tips. Really, really good tips there. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to pass on to Sarah now. And as I said before, just please feel free to keep any of your questions either in the chat or have them ready to ask at the end. I'll pass over to Sarah.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I work in the DDX division in the Ashburton office. So DDX is sort of a branch of enterprise. So DDX is the Data and Delivery Excellence Centre for compliance work. I guess we are like the stereotypical accountant, to be honest. So on a typical day, we'll be drafting annual accounts, doing tax returns, and just for a range of companies, partnerships, individuals, and trusts. What's cool about the DDX division in the South Island is that the 3 South Island offices act as one. So we pull a large range of work from a variety of sectors, including agriculture and through to not-for-profits. So KPMG South Island uses Xero, so I spend the majority of my day in Xero and Excel. So probably one of the best things about working in DDX in the South Island is that flexibility is really valued. It's understood that everyone has different circumstances and it's reflected in our working environment. We've got people who start early and finish early. We've got people who start later and finish later, and working from home just isn't an issue. And because, as I said before, the 3 South Island locations operate as one, you can work in one office in one day, work in a different office the next day, and you'll still be surrounded by your team for support. Taking breaks is respected, and working overtime is pretty much discouraged, even in busy season in our division. In terms of using your degree, high school and university accounting is a pretty good foundation for DDX. So typically financial accounting, the tax and papers which have a Xero element are pretty useful. We use all of those things in our day-to-day job. But with that being said, KPMG offers a huge amount of training and support. So at the end of the day, even without this background, it's possible to be successful within DDX. And this is because the division is structured so that there are so many people to help answer not just your question, but also explain why that's the answer. If I was to share a top tip for someone applying or looking to apply for KPMG, is similar to Ashley as well, is just remember to take time to consider what's best for you. As you can hear, that despite all of us working at KPMG, our jobs are so different. And take a moment to think what university papers you like the most, because this does have somewhat of a reflection of whether you would enjoy the job. Also consider what sort of environment that you would like to work in. So DDX sort of is mainly in the office or working from home, but at the other end of the spectrum, which you'll hear, audit does a lot of traveling and has a lot of time at the client. So yeah, in summary, it's important to have your interests in the front of your mind when you're applying for jobs. And that's me.
Amazing. Thank you, Sarah. Very good top tips there. And yeah, really nice to hear about the DDX team, and nice to have someone joining from Ashburton. Cool. I'm going to pass over to Rebecca, and then we'll show that we definitely do have males in the Christchurch office. I'm very conscious that we've just had lots of females talk. So yeah, pass over to Rebecca for now.
Great. So hi, I'm Rebecca. I actually just graduated from University of Canterbury last year in June. I'm a Bachelor of Commerce, major in accounting and taxation. I'm now at the Christchurch KPMG office, and I'm in the audit team. I'll keep my answers like nice and short, because otherwise I'll probably say what Will wants to say as well, because he's also from Christchurch. But yeah, pretty much on a day-to-day basis, we in contact with clients either by email or phone, and in non-COVID times we're actually out at the client, which I love. We're checking over like material accounts, documenting processes, and performing walkthroughs. We also use a lot of Excel and are now using a new system called Clara. So at the moment we're actually spending a lot of time working through and learning about this, because in the near future will make everything more efficient. The most rewarding or enjoyable part of this job are the people. We have a lot of fun social events, and normally when we're out at the client, we have a big audit team where we can discuss different things about work and social life too. So yeah, there's not many office jobs where you can all sit there and chat together, which is pretty cool. A lot of learning is on the job, but as you go through different work papers or chat through different issues, it does ring a bell as what you did learn at uni. I think it's important not to stress too much that you're like, oh, don't remember certain things from certain papers. You do learn a lot on the job, but yeah, putting content aside, the ability to be organised and getting things done in a timely fashion is probably what I've learned the most from my degree and applied in my job at KPMG the most. A top tip for applying for KPMG is just be yourself. Like Emma said before, they are interested in your life outside of study, and grades are not everything like everyone seems to think. They do help in some respects, but your personality and life outside of work and study is something you should definitely use when applying for your job. Yeah, that's me.
Amazing. Thank you, Rebecca. And yeah, as you said, a good segue into Will's chat about audit as well. So we'll pass over to Will.
G'day. Yeah, I didn't actually realise I was the only guy being interviewed. But I swear, there are like some of us, we are rare. But anyway, I'm Will. I'm in the Christchurch office working in audit. I think I'm the only one in the office right now on this call. Just great, we love being in the office. I actually moved from Australia last year to this job. Came from Monash University, and absolutely loving it. KPMG's welcomed me with open arms, made so many friends through it. Just really been an accommodating environment for me, especially because I only have one family member at Christchurch. So what do we do on a day-to-day basis? It really depends. Audit kind of has different phases, different stages, and we also have different processes. You know, you could be on a half-year audit where you're looking at analytical stuff, working in Excel, doing a bit of ratio analysis, sort of understanding movements. We could be on final, really looking in detail at transactions, events, specific accounts, a bit of risk analysis, or we could be working on a non-for-profit. It really depends. A lot of time on Excel, which is awesome. Definitely take that from university if you can, but you'll definitely learn on the job as well. What do I find most rewarding from my job? Well, most of our clients are corporates down here, meaning it's not just like insurance or banks, like financial services. I work on big mining companies. We just got a construction company, dairy industry, like agriculture. We've got a very big range of clients, and you kind of understand how they interact. You really get to look at the specifics of how that industry operates, which I guess it's kind of good if you want to branch out after audit and look at different roles and go into different industries. You've got that base knowledge across a wide range of industries. Also, the team's awesome down here. We have a lot of social events. I know Rebecca said it. really, really good team to work with. How do I use my degree? It's probably an interesting one. I think Naomi touched on it. Debits and credits, always good. You'll learn it at high school, you learn in uni. I wouldn't say I use anything specific for my degree. It's really just a good foundation of concepts, understanding, you know, not specifically how to do consolidation, but what actually is consolidation or impairment, or you don't need to know specifics, you'll learn that on the job, but having a good foundation of what things are accounting topics, it just really helps for your job. And a top tip for applying at KPMG, I think it's said before, and I'm definitely guilty of it, but we're really diverse company. I think Emma listed about 9 or 10 different, I guess, services we provide, or you can go into, and actually go to your careers, go to your counselors, and actually, you know, have a talk with them, understand what you like, what your strengths are. You know, really just find what you want to do in the future, what engages you, because you don't want to get into a role out of uni and then feel real burnt out because you're not liking it or not. Your job shouldn't be a chore, so to speak. So I'd really just find out what you love and what area would be covered by that, and then apply for that area. Cool. Yeah, that's it for me.
Thanks so much, Will. No, very good tips. I feel like if the students take anything from today, it's just, yeah, finding out what you're passionate about. And as a lot of the team have said, looking at the sort of papers that you've enjoyed at uni and sort of seeing where that can cross over into KPMG. That is it from our team. They've done their job. They've answered the questions that we gave to them. So well done. Thanks so much, everybody. I'm just going to pass over. We have had one question in the chat, which I see Ashley's already answered. So thank you very much, Ashley. We have a question from Hassan. How important do your grades play in succeeding in your application for an internship or a graduate role? I think Rebecca touched on this. It is a part of it, and I think it does help you in your role if you do get to start at KPMG. But we do also definitely look at, you know, yourself and you as a person and sort of what makes you tick. And we look at your application as a whole. So that's why I did sort of say, make sure when you do go through to click apply that you've, you know, take some time to really look through the answers. And there is a long answer question there where we sort of ask you why you're interested in KPMG. So making sure that you put a little bit of effort into that as well, because that's one of our first impressions of you guys. So yeah, grades are a part of it. We do look into it, but yeah, as I said, look at your whole application. Another question. My final semester majoring in finance, looking to enter the deals team. Would it be best for me to apply for another internship this summer or a graduate role? It does depend when you are going to graduate. So if you're in your final semester now, I would still apply on Monday when we open. What sometimes does happen is we do ask you when you'll be graduating or sort of when you'll finish your studies. So if you are going to be graduating sort of halfway through this year, we do sometimes have people that start halfway through the year. So Rebecca actually started in July last year because she graduated halfway through the year, and we had a small intake of graduates that we did a bit of an induction for and everything. So we do tend to have a smaller intake, not as large as our sort of 160 that started this week, but yeah, definitely still apply and just make sure that you mention when you're going to be graduating in your application.
Can I just tack something on there?
Yeah, absolutely. Go, Will. Yeah.
Because that was a bit different to most of the people. Let's say you found a division you really loved and you missed out on the first application. It may pop up later, because I actually applied for my role in November at the end of the year. So I'd say just don't lose hope, so to speak. Opportunities are always popping up.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really good point. We are historically we've sort of recruited on a rolling basis, so we've sort of never taken our roles down, and we are going to do it slightly differently this year. So we're going to have sort of 3 main intakes of when we do advertise our roles. So at the moment, obviously we open in March, but we will also have sort of a second round in July, and then if we've still got roles, then we'll probably open again sort of September time. So as Will said, he applied in November, so top tip would be to apply early, but if you sort of know that you're going to be graduating a different time, then just keep an eye out on our website, and whenever we've got roles available, they will be on our website. Is anyone brave enough to take themselves off mute or ask a question?
Yeah, I just had a question. It's sort of like a personal one.
Yeah, go for it.
It's just, do you like take into consideration, because at the moment I'm dealing with a concussion, and like if the application with the tests and stuff, would you take that into consideration?
Yes, so we are looking to have within the application process, we ask you to let us know if there's any sort of circumstances where you may need to say do the psychometric testing without a timer and different things like that. So we can have that as an option if you've got sort of learning difficulties, or as you say, you've got a concussion. Sorry, I hope you're okay. But yeah, just what's that? Sorry.
Just makes me not at my like top performance.
Right. Yeah. No, fair enough. And the biggest thing I would say is, there is a section at the bottom, if there's anything that you need to let us know, or then please do feel free to fill that out. We're not going to, that's not going to hinder your application at all. It's best for us to know. And you can always email us and let us know as well. So yeah, just make sure that you let us know, and then we'll be able to help you and support you as much as we can.
Cool. Thank you so much. And thank you for the presentation, guys.
Is it okay if I quickly add to that?
Yeah, I was going to say, any of the team, please add as much as you like.
Amy, just before I started at KPMG, I actually got a concussion too. I had already landed the job, but it would have happened just a couple of months beforehand. And when I started, I wasn't at my best. And I just let my team know, and they were really understanding about the whole thing. And when I needed extra days off or I wasn't feeling good, because I know what it's like, it sucks. They were really understanding about the whole thing. And so don't be afraid to apply at all, because the team here are super understanding about that.
Cool. Thank you.
It's okay.
Great question, because we had a perfect person to answer that question. I might throw it to some of the team for this question I've just seen come through. Any tips for asking good questions during the interview process? Does anyone have any good tips on questions to ask?
I might start actually. I think just asking questions that that genuinely interest you. Like, for example, we may not be advertising grad roles in, say, Ashburton or Timaru, but if that's something that would work better for you, then asking things like that might specifically help you. For example, would it be possible to work elsewhere, or have different hours, or just things that suit you, I suppose.
Yeah, such a good point. I think kind of goes back to Amy's question as well, that, if there's something that works better for you, or, you've got a question, just ask us. The worst thing we can say is no, but at least you've asked the question.
I think also just thinking about some examples of like when you've shown like perseverance and things like that, like the interviews are very conversational, but just having something ready and prepared in case they do ask for a time when you've also been like had to use organization and things like that. Just think of a few examples so you're not stumped in the interview.
And probably also to add in there, don't be afraid to, if they haven't mentioned it in the interview and you have a particular area of interest, to bring that up. That was something that I actually brought up in my KPMG interview, coming from a different workplace, and my team hadn't actually explored that avenue, and now since joining the team, we're actually exploring that avenue here at KPMG. So there's something that they may not offer it, but it may be something that you can look to explore further in your role if you do land the job. And it's also a good talking point.
Cool. I see someone's asked about internships available in Wellington and Deal Advisory. Just keep an eye out on our applications on Monday. Highly likely that will be there, but yeah, just keep an eye out on Monday and pop your application through. Does anyone else have any questions that they're got coming through? How long is a psychometric test? Someone's just asked. I think it takes, gosh, Linnea, I might ask you this one. How long does it take to do the psychometric testing?
I think it's something like 22 minutes, or
Yeah.
just to be precise, but you can do it shorter than that, but I think that's the maximum allowance. But obviously, as you spoke about before, you know, we should be able to take the timer off that we're working through that if need be.
Yeah, and I think I can't remember who, but one of the team mentioned doing some practice rounds of the psychometric testing. Feel free to, my biggest tip would be you can Google like psychometric testing, and there's lots of practice tests, that come out of like the UK and different places around the world that you can practice on before doing our ones, which can always help you.
Well, I'm just going to leap in there, Emma.
Go for it.
So that's our time, unfortunately, for today's session. Just picking up on that last point, though, we also have a number of really good practice tests available through the UC Careers portal on the website. So if you go onto our online tools and resources, you can access a bunch of stuff which is free and complete. Unlike some of the ones where it's free to do it, but you then have to pay to get your results. This is completely free, good practice stuff. But I'd just like to finish there by saying thank you very much to the team. That was fantastic, heaps of valuable information, which I'm sure all the students will find very helpful. So thank you again.
Thanks, Dave, and thanks so much to the team down in Christchurch, Timaru and Ashburton, for joining us as well.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, team. Cheers.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
So yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dave.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Thanks,
That was
Dave.
awesome.
Yeah, that was
No
a great
worries.
session.
Yeah, really good.
And all of your graduates were brilliant.
Yeah, they were. To be honest, a couple of them I haven't actually spoken to before. So we just sort of picked some of them up from the Christchurch team.